The way I'm looking at it, we had six practices in a row, and what I've been talking about with our team is that we're trying to stack them, right? Stack great practices together. So that what came back with the pancake analogy of stacks of pancakes, right? So these guys are really doing some really good things. I've been really happy with their attitude for the most part. Usually when you're into this, you're starting to get sore and beat up a little bit. You tend not to want to do what you've been doing on the earlier side of things. And these guys have been grinding, and I couldn't ask for anything more as a coach is to be able to still coach these guys aggressively, and they still want to learn because they want to do great things this year. But we had a little bit of a goal line, short yardage situations today, first day in pads. We did the goal line part live, so we had probably about 12 to 14 plays that were live, and there was some good give and take there. Defensively, some of our good to see T Lang back in there. He had some live reps today. We didn't have a lot of them because we were bringing them back slowly, but his presence was felt today. He had a sack in the third down period, and he had a nice stop in the goal line period. So our health is coming back. We're bringing those guys back that have had those off-season surgeries, kind of slowly bringing them into the mix. And they, first of all, they look great because they have fresh legs compared to the other guys that have been practicing for the last 6 days. But nonetheless, it's great to have them all out there. So.
How nice is it for you as a coach when you see Nate Lamb and Chris Miller, guys that have been injured, like back on the field, kind of doing what they love to do?
It gives me a lot of confidence in what our potential, what our team could be defensively, because those guys have had a lot of experience and they're good players, and they add great value for us. And so it's good to have those guys back along with the Carson Wells, but I would say guys like Jack Lamb, and Robert Barnes, their presence is felt too. It's not that Nate has to make every play anymore. We have some good enough backers where, they're all making plays. And Jack Lamb had a big interception today, in the third down period. So, those are fun to not have to rely on. It seemed like last year where a lot of the focus was on Lamb and getting his, and knowing everybody else, you just kind of got what you got. But I think now there's such a good system in place. Nate's still going to be Nate, but it's good to have some good pieces to that system.
Maurice Bell was a guy last year who did a lot of kickoff return duty for you. With him out this year, I'm curious just at this point, I know it's early, but who have you had cycling in at kickoff return and also punt return as well? I'm just curious who's been cycling in there.
The punt return guy is still Dimitri. He's really good at what he does, and so we have some good, I say quality backups in both of those areas. Levante is going to be a part of that equation on both punt and kickoff returns. I would say Brendan Rice, who really had the only kickoff or punt return for a touchdown last year. He's still involved in being a punt return and a kickoff returner. Gonzo, we're going to have him back there a little bit. He has some offensive experience in high school. He was a dynamic player offensively, and he shows to have some potential as well as being a good kickoff returner. So he's back there too. So it's really and then Jarek Broussard, he's one of those guys. He works back there, and so is Deion Smith, and a number of other guys. But I would say that those 3 or 4 names are kind of like the core guys in both those areas.
Now that you're in full pads, how difficult is it during camp to strike the perfect balance between having these guys get physical, hit each other, but also kind of have injury prevention on your mind?
It's a hard balancing act. It is true. You should ask my trainer that, Andrew. He's always concerned when the first day in pads and we're scrimmaging goal line. He's counting, has his fingers crossed, and all that stuff, that nothing happens. And it was a good, clean day. We didn't lose anybody today. So, but it's definitely something I think about. There's still some areas on our team we're still thin. The one that particularly last year, you guys remember, we were thin at corner, and this year we seem to have good depth at corner with those freshmen. I think our safety position has decent depth now too, with a couple of safeties there. We're still thin at a couple of linebacker spots though. That's still an area of where we're concerned about, but we like the quality in the position, but there's not a lot of depth still. So, but we'll continue to build on the recruiting side and build up the roster the way we need it, but you know, those are the things that I weigh how much physical work we do depending on what's going on in certain positions, and that kind of base it off of that basically.
You had the first padded practice today. You have the first off day of camp tomorrow. Was that intentional, or is that just how the schedule fell?
It was intentional. I wanted, you know, we had to start with that acclimatization plan anyway, but I wanted that before they had their day off to have, you know, with the pads on, at least some physical work. Kind of getting, you know, you kind of were building up to that point, having some good physical work, get a break, and then we're back in the pads on Thursday. So I wanted them to kind of get a good feel of what that would feel like. And they wanted to be in pads too. You know, they're chomping at the bit. Like I said on the first beginning of this thing, their attitude is about work. You know, I think they had a good taste in their mouth from what they were able to accomplish last year. They want to obviously change the narrative of how we finished the year. So there's a lot of motivation about getting our work in, and our leaders are really, you know, leading that charge. So.
You've got some upperclassmen anchors at tight end with Brady back and Matt Lynch as well. I'm curious what you've seen out of some of the younger guys, Caleb Fourier, Eric Olson, how they've been coming along, and if some of those younger guys in your eyes at this point, if you could see them maybe having a chance to crack the rotation when all is said and done.
I hope so. That's an area that it looks on paper that we have a lot of guys, but we really don't have. There are different body types that are in that position. But we want to have the best balance of guys that can run and do run blocking and pass, you know, receiving, things like that. But you guys know that Brady Russell's been, you know, even prior to me being here, has been a big part of the offense. You know, I saw one game with him last year, which was the first game, and then he didn't play the rest of the year, so it was good having him back. I think even guys like Alec Pell, you know, he's had a really good camp so far. We moved him over from defense last year to offense. He's growing and getting better, and is getting better in his receiving game, and you know he's doing better in his run blocking too. And Caleb Fourier I think he's made some steps of improvement since the spring, and he did some work over the summer, so he looks like he's been really working at it and looks more comfortable out there. Eric Olson is, you know, probably a notch or two behind him in terms of where he's at from his growth, but Eric is really a talented kid that we want to get him to be a factor for us this year. Austin Smith has been a little bit hampered by, you know, some soft tissue injury, but he hasn't had any really full practices yet, just limited stuff, but he's another guy that we're hoping to get in the mix. And, you know, Jared, you know, Poplowski he's been a pleasant surprise. You know, he's the one that had the ACLs, had 2 of those, and you know, he's back in the mix and getting himself, you know, some quality reps. And so there's some depth there. We're trying to just figure out, and I know it's only 6 practice in of 25, but we're trying to figure out how that's going to sort out in terms of the depth chart, you know. But I'm encouraged that we have enough pieces, which is completely different than we had a year ago.
So speaking of depth, tackle, you're a little thinner now with Frank being out.
A little thin, but you know, we got some good young guys. You know, there's Jake Wiley, and you know, we also have, you know, Max is back, and we didn't have him in the spring, and you know, we're doing a couple guys at tackle and guard a little bit because of the depth there. As you know, Chance Lytle's been playing some tackle. You know, so we have Big Tank is you know, our freshman, you know, tackle. So, you know, we have 4 solid ones there right now. But it's, you know, we're waiting on Frank to get back, you know, when he gets back. But we have some decent guys, or some quality guys that are kind of filling the space, you know, while he's out. You know, and Frank, just giving an update there, he's ahead of schedule. You know, he looks good physically. He's running around the field all the time. He doesn't look like he's, you know, ailing from anything. He's just we got to get it now, his shoulder strong. He's been doing a lot of push-ups and pull-ups and stuff like that, but he hasn't been doing a lot of weight stuff yet. That's the next progression. But he's doing really well. He's ahead of schedule, so that's a big positive.
Is there a chance for him to get back sooner than you maybe?
There's a chance, but you know, I don't make that decision. That's the doctors. You know, I'm optimistic about it, but the doctors will ultimately tell me when they plan to release him.
Noah Fensky transferring in, does he factor in at center, or where do you see him?
He's been center guard, a little bit of tackle, but he's probably more, I'd say, naturally inclined to play in the interior spots, like center and guard. And he's done great. You know, he's done great. And, you know, right now he's running with our second group with, you know, Colby being with the ones. And, you know, Austin Johnson was a little bit nicked yesterday, but he'll be back in a few days. He kind of had a calf strain, but he should be back. And then, you know, so we got some decent depth at center. You know, so Carson Lee. Got Carson Wells, Carson Lee. So Carson Lee is also in that mix too, inside. You know, Casey's getting back. You know, it's good to see that he's transitioning back to Casey Roddick. So he provides another really important veteran piece inside. So definitely this offensive line has more depth than a year ago.
All right, thanks, Coach.
All right. All right. Thank you, guys.